David Tennant last night, started on Matt Smith, and of all the doctors, this one is going to be the hardest to review. Okay, I know what everyone in the world thinks about David Tennant, so here it goes. I didn't like him. Let me explain why before you locate where I live and execute me. He was not the doctor. He was fun, don't get me wrong. I did enjoy him. He was a hoot, but he was not the doctor. When I start a doctor, well, with the exception of the first four, when I start a doctor, I can look at him and go, this is who he reminds me of. And I can reference at any given point all 50 years of Doctor Who and go, yeah, this is where this fits in. David Tennant, I couldn't. It took me so much time. On occasion, my first thought was, okay, he's the fifth. But I didn't know if I was being biased because I knew that the fifth Doctor, Peter Davison, is his father-in-law. And so that I wasn't certain. I was watching that going, I don't know if I'm biased or not. I really had a hard time placing him because he didn't really remind me of the fifth. The fifth reminded me of him and Matt Smith, but it was really hard placing him. I need to go back and watch the fifth Doctor now. But it didn't feel like the Doctor. It didn't at all. There was nothing about him. And what the hell is up with his lips being everywhere? Dude. Like, I'm watching him and I'm like, since when does the Doctor kiss? The Doctor does not kiss. The Doctor is clueless. He is the dude who's really sexy in a room, but is so freaking oblivious to the fact that anyone likes him. That is the Doctor. He is so clueless when it comes to women. It's not even funny. So he's sitting there strutting his stuff. He knows he's sexy. And I'm like, what is he, the sixth? And I'll be honest with you, there are times where he reminded me very much of the sixth. If anything, and I think that's what's bothering me more than anything, is he reminded me of a very sexy version of the sixth Doctor. The arrogance was still there, but he reeled it in. But he was the sixth Doctor with pain and humility. That's what... This is hard. This is very, very hard because I liked David Tennant. I loved what the show was. I loved the stories. But it wasn't Doctor Who. Now, if you take out the fact that they're labeling it as Doctor Who, I adored it and oh my God, did I love it. But it wasn't Doctor Who. It was more about his romance and Rose and oh my God. Okay, so Rose, this is assuming everybody going forward has watched this because I have a lot of spoilers to dump. Oh my God. So it gets to the end of season 2 when Rose is left alone in the rift and they have that moment to say goodbye. And I am like sobbing. Now, I haven't sobbed this much over a movie or a love story literally since I read The Notebook. I don't read this kind of garbage. I don't. I'm not into it. But I just bawled and bawled. Like, I'm sobbing all over the place. The next episode rolls up and David has a single tear down his cheek. I am just bawling my eyes out. He wipes the tear away, refreshes himself, turns around, and there's a bride. And I'm holding my breath going, Rose! And it turns around and it's Donna. And I'm going... I paused it and went, I can't do this. I can't. It's too soon to see a bride. And I'm just bawling again and blubbering. I stopped. I made myself some chocolate. I cried some more. Like, I probably stopped for a good hour just to cry and cry. It was heart-wrenching. Oh my God. I loved the story of Rose. And then every moment you see Rose from there on, you get a snapshot of her, and it would just trigger me, and I'd be like all over again. You see her in one of the video cams, and you see her mouthing "Doctor," and I'm screaming like it was insane. You are so glad you didn't watch it with me. I could not keep myself together. So and then he sees her, and I'm bawling my eyes out there doing this it was the most beautiful, romantic, running together, and you see a Dalek, and I'm like, oh, frick, I know where this is leading. Jenna! And I can honestly say I've never hated the Daleks more than I did then. So they shoot the Doctor, she does this whole pleading. I had this vision in my head of the Doctor and her embracing in this magnificent kiss. And that Dalek took that away from me. So, that aside, I loved that Martha Jones came in and she very much was in love with the Doctor, but he clearly wasn't giving anyone room for that. It was just a beautiful story. Such a stunning, gorgeous love story. But again, it is not the Doctor. And then Madame Pomfrey, and he's got his lips all over the place. And I'm like, since when does the Doctor kiss people? The Doctor does not kiss people. That was the other thing about David that really pissed me off. Since when does the Doctor fly the TARDIS properly? He hasn't flown the TARDIS that well since the Sixth Doctor, which is where I'm going back to the Sixth Doctor going, he was too perfect. The Doctor is a lot like Matt Smith. Oh, Matt Smith had it nailed. You know when you see Matt Smith hanging out of the TARDIS by his little finger, and he's got the screwdrivers all cracked up and broken, and he almost gets his nuts like clipped off by Big Ben? That's the Doctor. Yeah, that's the Doctor I know. He's smart, and he's great on his feet, but he is freaking... Yeah, that's the Doctor. Him coming off as kind of klutzy, definitely not. That was the Doctor. The whole little bow ties are cool. Now that's the Doctor that I know. And it was wonderful because I saw Matt Smith and immediately went 1, 2, 3, 4 Doctors just crammed into one man. Like he had all 4 of the first Doctors pegged within the first few seconds. So for me, Matt Smith is like the perfect Doctor since Tom Baker. No, because he had a bit of Tom Baker in there as well. To me, the show should have been 1, 2, 3 Doctor, 4 Doctor, Tom Baker, and then it should have jumped probably to Sylvester McCoy. I'll give Sylvester that. And then Matt Smith should have entered the picture. That is the Doctor lineage. That is him. So when the episode ended with Matt Smith, and I know I'm talking about Matt on the David Tennant clip, when I got done with Matt Smith that first episode, I looked at my husband and said, I feel like I haven't seen the Doctor in like 30 years. And I hadn't. The last time I had seen the Doctor, the way the Doctor behaves, is Tom Baker all the way back in the 70s. So it felt really good to see him again. And oh my God, did I miss him. I really felt like from the 5th Doctor on, I haven't seen the Doctor. But David Tennant, and there was definitely the 5th Doctor, or the classic era came and went. The retro area, I got through the retro area. The retro area was really, the writing was horrible. The casting was very good. Yeah, the casting was good. It wasn't very good. The casting was good. The casting for the classic era was perfect. The first 4 Doctors were perfectly casted. The writing, there were days where the writing was crappy. The retro era, the casting was good. It wasn't as good as the first 4 Doctors, but it was good. But the writing was just shit writing. Like the last thing that was a really good story arc was Shada, which is the season finale of Tom Baker. Phenomenal arc. It has been really shoddy writing since Tom Baker left the show. The writing was just garbage. It was terrible rubbish. But the casting, I think they did good with the casting. I think it could have been better in certain places. 6th Doctor. But it was definitely, the casting was just off. There was a lot that was off with the retro era. And the movie, I thought the movie was stunning. I loved the movie. I loved the actor who did it. That's the Doctor to me. Paul McGann did a phenomenal job portraying the Doctor. Sylvester McCoy, the 8th Doctor, did a phenomenal job portraying the Doctor. The writing with Sylvester McCoy was terrible. And I think that's the movie writing I thought was phenomenal. And I think this is my problem, is when you put together a show, you have casting, you have all these elements. You have special effects, computers, graphic, costume, casting, and writing. And the director. You have all these variables that come into place. And there's a lot of variables to get right. And sometimes you nail it. And sometimes it flops. Sometimes you have the casting wrong, the story wrong, the directing wrong. So for me, with the classic era, the writing was its weak part. They had the casting, the costume, the tech. That was all, okay, the tech was shit. But for this age, it was very good. Like I have Lost in Space and Star Trek Original Generations to compare to Doctor Who. And of all of the 1960s sci-fi TV, Doctor Who was definitely at the top. So for the era, Doctor Who was phenomenal. They had the tech there. It could have done so much more if it had the appropriate tech like what we have today then. Honestly, that's what I would like to see, is those 4 actors mixed with today's tech and the writers of today. So the writers and the tech of today mixed with those 4 actors, damn, that would be the perfect Doctor Who. But the writing, so that's what I see with the first four Doctors. Retro area was just, there was too much going wrong for it. The actors who came in, for the most part, they did a lot with they did great for the shit they were handed. Paul McGann was phenomenal. Loved the Doctor, loved the writing, loved the story. But then you bring in and then Christopher Eccleston. The writing was good. The writing was great. The tech was great. I think the actor was off. It was definitely off. And looking with, now that I have Christopher Eccleston and I have Paul McGann, I'm going to lump in there too, because that's a really large. He was definitely a transitional Doctor, and there were two transitional Doctors, Christopher Eccleston and Peter Davison, the fifth Doctor. Both of those were transitional Doctors. They were Doctors who you could definitely tell they were the start of the next generation or the next era, but they hadn't quite. It was William Hartnell, the first Doctor, was also a transitional Doctor. You definitely felt you were starting something new, but you weren't quite sure what that new thing was. That's the first Doctor, the fifth Doctor, and the eighth Doctor and ninth. Those three, four Doctors, I'm not sure if I should include Paul McGann in there, because he was definitely a great combination of the transition, the new era, and the classic Who. So that was a weird combination. Let me exclude the movie for now with the eighth Doctor. Christopher Eccleston, Peter Davison, the fifth Doctor, and William Hartnell, the first Doctor. They were definitely transitional Doctors where you could feel that start happening. So when I walked into Christopher Eccleston, he screamed the second Doctor right away to me. Fourth Doctor, I saw a lot of that. I saw a lot of John Pertwee in him. I could definitely see where I was watching the classic Who, but the story was definitely better. The casting were still trying to find themselves. I think they were trying to define themselves with a new era, but at the same time, it was definitely what do we have here? We definitely have something new, but what is it exactly that we have? We want to recognize and honor the old cast. We want to bring Doctor Who back, but we're not quite certain where that is. So you could tell that uncertainty was there. And there was so much about the actor himself, his portrayal, that screamed to me second Doctor, with the first time he opened his mouth, that whole run, that is Doctor 2. I cannot emphasize that enough. That was established and absolutely strongly designed by the second Doctor. So every time the Doctor says run, that is Patrick Troughton. That is 100% second Doctor. And that is a defining characteristic of the Doctor moving forward. Which again was another problem I had with David Tennant, is he didn't run away. He ran into the danger. And it's not that the Doctor would land the TARDIS and he'd have no clue where he was or when he was. That was one of my favorite things about Classic Who. He had no frickin' clue where and when he was. The TARDIS was a female. She was very much her own mood, her own personality. She was the Doctor's lover. Like, that came out very clearly in Classic Who. And she could be a jealous lover at times, and she threw tantrums. There were times where she really had it in for the Doctor. I think that's really a good portion of what Doctor Who was, is the TARDIS's personality and how she felt with the Doctor and all of his companions. And that came clear, very, very clear in Classic Who, and they've gotten away from that so much that it's going, no. That's why the Doctor can't control her, is because she's kind of moody and has her own personality. But that's not the case now, and that's kind of... And Matt Smith brings that back. I saw that come back when he's like, ooh, what have you got for me now? Yes, that's exactly it. It's the first time it alludes that the TARDIS decors it to fit the Doctor, and not that the Doctor remodels. But that was something that was alluded in the second Doctor, third Doctor, fourth, where he remodeled the TARDIS, and he takes credit for it, saying, yeah, it needed a change and I upgraded the console. But then in the fourth Doctor, Tom Baker, the console is destroyed, and he goes back to the first console that William Hartnell used, and the companion was like, I don't understand, why are there two consoles? And apparently, according to what was alluded in this episode, he never gets rid of a single console. He keeps them all. Unless he jettisons it out. That was a whole nother episode. So it was really different. It was really, really open, insightful. It was just fascinating that you've got all these variations. So for the Doctor to go in and suddenly be able to control the TARDIS, and this is my biggest problem with Tennant, is he had way too much control over the TARDIS. He had way too much sex appeal. He was way too conscious of how much... He was so busy wooing. He was almost like Jack in that sense, where he was so busy throwing himself at the, no, he didn't throw himself at the women. He was so busy being wooed by women that he wasn't nerdy. He wasn't on top of his game. The Doctor really doesn't give a shit about women. He really doesn't. And that was something I really struggled with. So when I had Christopher Eccleston, I went, okay, second Doctor. I can see the fourth Doctor in him with a little bit of a third. And definitely it was it was second Doctor, fourth Doctor, and then third Doctor. Those were his primary personalities. David Tennant, I clean slate. I'm looking at him going, well, he's not the first Doctor. He's not the second. He's not the third. He's not the fourth. I think he's modeled after the fifth, but he's not quite the fifth. There's something off there with the fifth. And this is what I thought. I was wondering if he was picking up Peter Davison's personality off camera rather than his portrayal of the Doctor. That was really, and I'm wondering if that's what I was seeing, was his interpretation or his personality being personified by Peter Davison, the actor, because he's, this is somebody he knows very, very well on a very personal level, whereas he wasn't really portraying where he was there. But there was still very much this, and this is where it gets a little too hazy, but there was still this, and this is where it just gets hard, because he didn't really fit into any personality. He was his own Doctor. He was as original with the Doctor as the first, second, third, and fourth Doctor were. He really had his own formula. The problem was, the Doctor always always has a little bit of the characteristics with him. And my problem with David Tennant is there were no characteristics. On occasion, he acted like the sixth Doctor. On occasion, that arrogance of, yeah, I'm the Doctor, came out. But because of his sex appeal, he definitely he could get away with that arrogance. Which is, and this is funny because this is what I say about House all the time, from the show House MD, is you can get away being that kind of a jackass when you have that kind of a sex appeal. House took it to a whole nother level. But with David Tennant, that definitely came off. He had his moments where he definitely was a little bit arrogant. Not over to the point where you wanted to punch him like with the sixth Doctor, a.k.a. Gilderoy Lockhart, but it still definitely came through. He was too good. He was too perfect. He was too in control of the TARDIS. He was too well dressed. He was too suave, too sexy, too into the women. And that's where I really lost credibility with the actor, where I'm just going, it's not the Doctor. It's fun. Oh, don't get me wrong. It was fun. It was so much fun. Oh God, it was so much fun. And I will probably go back and rewatch David Tennant over and over and over again. It's such a fun ride. Such a fun ride! But it wasn't the Doctor. It was like, this dude found the TARDIS. Maybe that's it. It wasn't the Doctor. Maybe it was just another Time Lord. That's what it was. I will be happy with that concept. It wasn't the Doctor. It was another Time Lord who happened to have a Type 40 TARDIS. It's the Doctor in a parallel universe. I can go with that, but that doesn't make sense with Rose. You get the idea. So it was, don't get me wrong, I loved David Tennant. I adored the show. I adored the writing. The casting was phenomenal. But it wasn't the Doctor. It was not Doctor Who. And once I was able to put that phrase in my mind, and that's a very good example. At the very end, when the Doctor explains, this is a 6-man flying machine. 6 people are supposed to pilot a single TARDIS. If it's always ever been myself, for the first time I have 6 people. And he lines all the 6 people up. And when he announced that, my husband and I just went, that explains so much! Because as you saw with Matt, hanging on by his finger, and it's like flying wildly all over the place, that is how the Doctor flies his TARDIS. And going back to what I was saying with Patrick Troughton, he would not run away from danger. He definitely had no problems retreating. He understood the psychology of all of his enemies, like the Centaurians. So he knew, look, if you give them war, that's what they want, so don't give them war. With the Daleks, you run. You run. And if they're on Earth, you do everything you can to get them off of Earth, but you run. So he definitely refined his fighting technique, determined by each enemy he was facing. which again was just a beautiful thing about the Doctor. He could not control the TARDIS. He could not control when and where he was. There were so many times where his companions, too many times, the majority of the time, where his companions went, "When are we, Doctor?" And he goes, "Well, let's find out, shall we?" And he'd turn on the monitor and go, "Okay, who was it? Who was it? I can't remember where it was." He opened up the TARDIS, he looked outside and went, "Rocks!" I think it was Christopher Eccleston. I'm certain it was Christopher Eccleston. I know it was, because David Tennant would never do that. That is the Doctor. When he opens the TARDIS and he looks out the monitor, he goes, "Let's see where are we?" And he sees this rocks, and he goes, "Oh wait, no, it wasn't. It wasn't Eccleston." Was it the 5th Doctor? Tom Baker. It was Tom Baker. I remember now. It was Tom Baker with Romana. They land, and this is a perfect example of what I mean. He gets Romana, and she says to him, "Where are we, Doctor?" He goes, "I don't know. Let's find out, shall we?" And he turns on the monitor, and the monitor pops up. He looks out the window, and all he sees are rocks, and he's very excited about this. "Oh, rocks!" That is the Doctor. That is the Doctor. That is the Doctor. "Ooh, rocks!" And he heads out very excited about the rocks. That is the Doctor. And the 2nd Doctor absolutely brought that, "Ooh, let's find out, shall we? Look, a volcano's erupting. Oh, let's go check this out." Like, that is the Doctor. And then he gets in the middle of the danger, and providing everyone is safe. And that was the other thing. When David Tennant lands on Pompeii, and he's like, "It's volcano day, let's get out of here." No. The Doctor would not have run. The Doctor would have gone, "Oh, what do we see here?" He would have pulled up some sort of thing from his screwdriver. He would have looked at the date, the exact time that the volcano erupts. He would have bought some popcorn and gotten the best view in the house. That is the Doctor. He would not have run and found the TARDIS. And so that whole, "It's volcano day, we got to get out of here." No, since when would you get out of here? He would have gone and found the best seat in the house. "Hey, this would be really great if we were up there. We got to see this." That is the Doctor. The whole, "I got to sit back and watch Pompeii." Yeah. That's the Doctor. So for him to go, "Oh, it's volcano day, we got to get out of here." I'm like, since when? Since when do we get out of here? The Doctor never wants to get out of here. Ever. The Doctor gets excited over rocks. So you think he's going to walk away from a volcano? The eruption of Earth? Like, there is nothing bigger than Pompeii's eruption. So I can't say it's David Tennant. It's definitely the writers that really, I don't feel like the writers did their homework. That's it. That's it right there. I love David Tennant. The writers didn't do their frickin' homework. There. I said it. Ha! Yeah, that's it. Love David Tennant. Love what they wrote. But how dare they call that Doctor Who? Yeah. Okay, so, the Master. I can't not talk about the Master. They pegged him. Okay, they more than pegged him. So, and I went back to the Master after watching the Master from this era. The last time I saw the Master was... he was blown up by Paul McGann in a flashback just before the launch of the Dalek Gallifreyan War, and the Doctor was taking the Master back to stand trial, and there was an explosion, and the Master blew up. So that's where I left off with the Doctor, or with the Master. So when I saw that, I'm like, what? I think the best way to explain this is this way. Before David Tennant, if you had asked me what I felt about the Master, I would say he is a phenomenal bad guy. Phenomenal nemesis. The order of nemesis that I have in my head is as follows. The Master. Iago from Othello. Voldemort. Dolores Umbridge. Like, that is the order. After watching what he did to David Tennant, it was the dog bowl on the floor with a tent, by the way. That just took the Master right under Dolores Umbridge. And my girlfriend looks at me and goes, "Whoa! He surpassed Dolores Umbridge." He did. Oh, he did. It's twitching my eye. that's... Most people weren't there when the Master and Tom Baker shook hands and made a deal. Most people weren't there when he partnered up. The Master respected the Doctor, loved the challenge, purposely went out of his way to save him a few times. You didn't see the 5 Doctors when Peter Davison, William Hartnell, Patrick Troughton, and Tom Baker was almost there. You weren't, and John Pertwee all came back with Sarah Jane and Jamie, and everyone came back, and they brought in the Master to help the Doctor and say, well, the Gallifreyan High Council said to the Master, we need you to go save the Doctor. And the Master said, absolutely. And then the Master goes into, Rassilon. That's what I miss. That is what I miss. They haven't mentioned Rassilon at all. That makes me really sad. And that's it. That's what's missing from this new Doctor Who. There is no mention of Rassilon. To the point where I probably have a lot of people out there going, who's Rassilon? Rassilon. Yeah. Loved that they brought K9 back. Loved that they had Sarah Jane with, I can't say Jamie. It's really hard to not think Jamie. With Sarah Jane and K9 was back. They had, and for the record, the Doctor did not leave K9 with Sarah Jane. That really is a little inconsistency that bugs the crap out of me. Because there were only 3 K9s. There was a K9 left with Leela. There was a K9 left with Romana. And that was it. And then he created his own K9. I'm trying to remember where that one went. But no, Sarah Jane did not get a K9. So why she suddenly has a K9, I don't know. That's new to me. But yeah, that really... The Master... I don't know. It's really... There's just so much. It's just amazing. And like I said, when I saw what they did with Matt Smith, within one episode, he nailed it. Like, Matt Smith is the Doctor. And I feel like I haven't seen this side of him since Tom Baker. It's the Doctor. It's the Doctor. That whole, all right then, I'll be back in 5 minutes, 12 years later. That's the Doctor, I know. That's the Doctor. When David Tennant opens that door and there's like a wall and he goes, ah! And he goes back in the TARDIS and, no. The Doctor would not have pulled that move off. The Doctor's an idiot when it comes to his TARDIS. The TARDIS runs the Doctor. That's something you must understand. So when Matt does his whole, I'll be back in 5 minutes. And 12 years later, that's the Doctor. And at the end, when he says, I'll be right back. And it's 2 years later. What is it? Is it 2 years later? Really? That's the Doctor, I know. That's the Doctor. So, yeah. It was nice seeing Davros again. It's funny because in all the Doctor Who's, they have not changed his appearance once. Davros is amazing. Yeah. I did notice a change in the makeup because before they had this massive helmet that they put on the actor so you could see his lips underneath his stage lips. So it was nice seeing Davros without that little error, but aside from that, that's Davros. His eyes are different. He doesn't have eyes anymore. That changed, but I imagine that's from before. And that was the other thing with the Daleks. The first time you see a Dalek, you actually don't see a Dalek. You see its tentacle thingies. With William Hartnell all the way back on the planet Skara with 1,000 the dolls. And you see the little tentacles come out. And it makes you go, what do they look like? Do we ever get to see? But you don't ever get to see a Dalek. You don't get to see a Dalek until Rose. Is it Rose? Yeah, until Rose is standing there with a Dalek and it opens up to touch the sunlight. That is the very first time you see a Dalek. With Christopher Eccleston. So feel privileged. That was something that they kept from us very, very early on for 50 years we weren't allowed to see the Daleks. So, yeah. I have so much to say about David Tennant, but I feel like it really doesn't have anything to do with Doctor Who. And that's something that just, yeah. All right, I think I'm done with this. On that note, goodbye, David.